Nathan Cole had delivered mail to Ashburn Street for almost 11 years. He knew every cracked pavement slab, every rusted gate, and every dog that barked before he reached the front step. Number 17 belonged to an elderly widow named Margaret Vale. Number 19 belonged to the Harpers, a family with 2 children and a blue bicycle that was always left beside the driveway. Between the 2 houses was a narrow strip of overgrown ground. It was barely wide enough for a person to stand in. There had never been a house there. Nathan was certain of that. But at 5:42 am on a cold Thursday morning, he turned onto Ashburn Street and saw a building standing between numbers 17 and 19. It was tall, narrow, and completely black. 3 floors had somehow been compressed into a space no wider than a single room. Its roof leaned forward over the pavement. Its windows were dark. And its front door was positioned so close to the street that Nathan could have touched it without leaving the road. A small brass plate had been fixed above the letterbox. It read 17 1/2. Nathan stopped beside his delivery van. He stared at the house and tried to understand how it could fit there. Number 17 had not moved. Number 19 had not moved. The narrow house simply occupied space that had not existed the previous morning. There were no construction vehicles, no disturbed earth, no scaffolding, not even footprints in the damp grass. It looked old, older than every other building on the street. The bricks were blackened by weather, and the wooden frames around the windows were warped as though they had survived decades of rain. Nathan approached the front gate. There was no gate. A short stone path led directly to the door. He checked his delivery scanner. Ashburn Street contained numbers 1 through 41. There was no entry for 17 1/2. Nathan looked towards Margaret Vale's house. Her bedroom curtain moved. For a moment, he saw her watching from behind the glass. Then the curtain closed. Nathan returned to his van and continued his route. He told himself that he had somehow overlooked the building. Perhaps the 2 houses had always been farther apart than he remembered. Perhaps the darkness had made the gap seem smaller. But when he reached the sorting depot later that morning, he searched the municipal property database. There was no number 17 1/2. The land between 17 and 19 was listed as a drainage easement. The most recent aerial photograph showed only the same narrow strip of weeds Nathan remembered. The house did not exist. The following morning, 6 letters were waiting in Nathan's route tray. All 6 were addressed to the current resident 17 1/2 Ashburn Street. There were no return addresses. The envelopes were made from thick yellowed paper. Each had been sealed with dark red wax. Nathan took them to his supervisor. The supervisor examined the address and shrugged. If there's a letterbox, deliver them. That address isn't registered. Then mark it as an unlisted property. Nathan turned one envelope over. The wax seal contained the shape of an open door. I don't think that house was there 2 days ago. His supervisor looked at him for several seconds. Then she pushed the letters back across the desk. Deliver the mail, Nathan. He placed the envelopes in his bag when he arrived at Ashburn Street. The black house was still there. This time, one upstairs window was illuminated. A faint amber light moved behind the curtains. Nathan stood before the front door. The letterbox was a narrow opening in the wood. He pushed the first envelope through. It did not fall. Something on the other side took it from his fingers. Nathan stepped back. The second envelope was addressed to the same house, but beneath the address was a name. Thomas Wren. Nathan recognized it. Thomas Wren had lived on Hillcrest Road. Nathan had delivered mail to him for years. Thomas had died the previous winter. The third envelope was addressed to Claire Benson. She had disappeared 9 years earlier. The fourth carried the name of a local teacher who had been killed in a traffic accident. Every envelope belonged to someone dead or missing. Nathan did not deliver the remaining letters. He returned them to his bag and walked to number 17. Margaret Vale opened the door before he knocked. She was wearing a gray nightdress beneath a wool coat. Her face was pale. How long has that house been there? Nathan asked. Margaret looked towards number 17 1/2. There is no house there. Nathan turned. The black building stood less than 10 meters away. You can see it. Margaret's fingers tightened around the doorframe. There is no house between mine and the Harpers. There is. It's right there. Margaret looked directly at the narrow front door. Then she whispered, "Do not put anything through that letterbox." Nathan felt the weight of the undelivered envelopes in his bag. You do see it. Margaret stepped back into her home. My husband saw it once. When? 33 years ago. The house had appeared for only one night. Margaret's husband, Peter, had been walking home when he noticed it. A light was burning in the upper window. Someone inside called his name. Peter entered the house. Margaret never saw him again. The police searched the gap between numbers 17 and 19. They found no doorway, no cellar, and no evidence that a building had ever stood there. The house disappeared before sunrise. Margaret had spent years trying to convince people that it had existed. Eventually, she stopped speaking about it. "Why has it come back?" Nathan asked. Margaret looked at his delivery bag. "Perhaps because you brought it something." The front door of number 17 1/2 opened. No person stood behind it. Beyond the doorway was a dim entrance hall. The inside of the house was far wider than the exterior. A staircase curved upward beneath a ceiling Nathan could not see. Doors lined both walls. At the far end of the hall, a table held a silver tray. One of the envelopes Nathan had delivered rested on it. A voice came from inside. "Nathan." He froze. The voice was male, familiar, but impossible. His father had vanished when Nathan was 8 years old. Police believed he had abandoned the family. Nathan's mother had spent the rest of her life insisting that he would return. Nathan remembered his father's voice clearly, the same low tone, the same slight pause before speaking his name. "Nathan," the voice repeated. "I've been waiting." The front door remained open. Nathan stepped off the pavement. Margaret grabbed his arm. "That is not your father." Nathan looked at the dark hallway. "How do you know?" "Because it used my husband's voice too." The door slammed shut. The amber light in the upstairs window went out. Nathan left Ashburn Street without delivering the remaining letters. By midday, something had changed. Thomas Wren's house on Hillcrest Road was empty. Not simply unoccupied empty. His furniture was gone. His photographs were gone. His name had disappeared from the local records. When Nathan asked one of the neighbors about him, she looked confused. No Thomas ever lived there. Nathan checked his phone. A photograph he had taken at Thomas's retirement party was still in his gallery, but Thomas was no longer in it. An empty chair stood where he had once been sitting. The first letter had not been addressed to a dead man. It had removed him from the past. That evening, Nathan opened one of the remaining envelopes. Inside was a sheet of paper with a single sentence. "Claire Benson has returned home." Nathan drove to the Benson residence. The house had been empty since Claire's disappearance. Now lights shone through the windows. A woman stood inside the kitchen. Nathan recognized Claire from old missing person posters. She had vanished at 26. She should have been 35. She had not aged at all. Nathan knocked on the door. Claire opened it slowly. "Where have you been?" he asked. She looked towards Ashburn Street. Inside the house. Claire nodded. "What happened to you?" "I received a letter." "Who sent it?" "You did." Nathan stepped back. "I didn't know you when you disappeared. You didn't need to know me." Claire's eyes moved to his delivery bag. "You only needed to carry the address." A door closed somewhere inside her house. Claire flinched. "They let me come back because someone else took my room." "Who?" She stared at Nathan. "Thomas Wren." The hallway lights behind her went out one by one. Claire whispered, "Do not open your letter." Then the front door closed. Nathan returned home and emptied his delivery bag onto the kitchen table. 5 envelopes remained. 4 were addressed to people he recognized. The 5th was addressed to him, Nathan Cole, the upper room, 17 1/2 Ashburn Street. He did not open it. He placed it inside a metal box and locked it in a cupboard. At 20:17 a.m. in the morning, something began scratching from inside the cupboard. Nathan sat awake until sunrise. When he opened the cupboard, the metal box was gone. The envelope addressed to him lay on the kitchen table. Beside it was an old leather postal bag. The initials Meek were stamped into the side, Michael Cole. His father, Nathan, opened the bag. Inside were hundreds of undelivered letters. Some were decades old, others appeared new. Every one was addressed to a person who had disappeared. At the bottom of the bag was a photograph. It showed Nathan's father standing in front of number 17 1/2. The photograph had been taken in 1996, the year he vanished. Michael was wearing a postal uniform. Nathan had never known that his father worked for the mail service. On the back, someone had written, "Every carrier chooses the next resident." Nathan returned to the depot and searched the archived employee files. There was no record of Michael Cole, but hidden in an old storage cabinet, Nathan found a route ledger from 1996. Michael's name appeared beside Ashburn Street. His final entry contained only 4 words: refused delivery. Entered property. Nathan understood what the house wanted. The letters were not invitations. They were exchanges. Each delivered name gave the house permission to take a person from the world. That person became a room. Their memories became furniture. Their final moments became walls. And when a new person was delivered, someone already inside could be released. Nathan's father had refused to choose another victim, so the house had taken him instead. That night, number 17 1/2 appeared again. All 3 upper windows were illuminated. Nathan stood outside with his father's postal bag. The front door opened before he reached it. His father's voice called from the upper floor. This time, Nathan entered. The hallway smelled of dust and wet timber. The front door closed behind him. The sound of Ashburn Street disappeared. The first room contained a family sitting around a dining table. None of them moved. 4 plates held food covered in gray mold. A newspaper beside the father's hand was dated March 1989. Nathan recognized the family. They had vanished from a nearby town without leaving a trace. As Nathan stepped into the room, their heads turned towards him. Their eyes remained closed. The mother whispered. No letter came for the child. Nathan backed into the hallway. The next room was a classroom. Rain struck windows that showed no outside world. A teacher stood before a blackboard. His body was frozen in the position he had been in when the traffic accident killed him. On the board was written, "Delivered 6:14 a.m. Nathan closed the door. He climbed the staircase. The second floor contained a child's bedroom. Dozens of wooden toys faced the wall. A small girl sat on the bed. "Are you the new postman?" she asked. Nathan did not answer. "The old one is upstairs." "My father." The girl nodded. "He has been waiting a long time." Nathan continued through the house. The corridor became longer with every step. Doors appeared behind him. Some had names carved into the wood, others displayed dates. A few showed addresses. Nathan found Claire Benson's door. It stood open. Her room was empty except for a chair and an undelivered letter. Thomas Wren's name now appeared where hers had been. Nathan heard something moving inside the walls. A heavy shape followed him between the rooms. He reached the final staircase. At the top was a narrow landing and a single black door. The brass number read 17 1/2. Nathan opened it. The upper room resembled an abandoned sorting office. Thousands of letters covered the floor. Wooden pigeonholes stretched to the ceiling. Every compartment contained a name. Michael Cole sat behind a desk. He looked exactly as Nathan remembered him. Same brown coat, same tired eyes, same scar beside his chin. Nathan could not speak. His father stood. For several seconds, neither of them moved. Then Michael embraced him. Nathan felt the warmth of his body. It was real. "You shouldn't have come," Michael whispered. "I came to get you out. There is no getting out without a replacement. I won't give it anyone. That is what I said." Michael showed him the final letter. It was addressed to a young woman named Emily Rhodes. Nathan remembered seeing her earlier that morning. She had stood outside a cafe holding a red umbrella. "The house has already chosen her," Michael said. Someone wrote her name. "That isn't the same thing. If you deliver the letter, I can leave." Nathan looked at his father. Michael had been trapped for 50 years. A single delivery would release him. One stranger would disappear. No one would know Nathan had caused it. Michael placed the envelope in his hand. Nathan looked at the wax seal, the open door. "Who did you deliver to release the person before you?" Nathan asked. Michael said nothing. "There was someone here before you." "Who did you give the letter to?" His father lowered his eyes. "Your mother." Nathan's fingers tightened around the envelope. "She didn't disappear. She would have. I changed the address." "To whose?" Michael looked at him. Nathan understood before the answer came. "You put my name on it. You were a child. I thought the house would reject it, but it didn't. Then why am I still here? Because I entered before it could take you." The house groaned around them. Letters began falling from the pigeonholes. The walls breathed inward. Michael grabbed Nathan's shoulders. "It has waited for you ever since." The envelope addressed to Nathan appeared on the desk. Its seal broke by itself. Inside was a photograph of the upper room. Nathan sat behind the desk. His father was gone. A date had been written beneath the image, tomorrow. The door behind them opened. A tall shape entered the room. It wore a coat made from thousands of overlapping envelopes. Where its face should have been was a black letterbox. A voice came from inside it. "Delivery is due." Michael lifted Emily Rhodes's letter. "Take this and run." Nathan looked at the envelope, then at the walls filled with names. Every person inside the house had been reduced to an address. Every victim had been exchanged for another. Nathan tore Emily's letter in half. The building screamed. Michael shouted as the floor split beneath them. The pieces of the envelope turned black and rejoined in Nathan's hands. He tore it again. It restored itself. The creature moved closer. "Delivery cannot be refused." Nathan reached into his father's postal bag and pulled out every remaining letter. He threw them into the fireplace beside the desk. The flames rose instantly. Hundreds of voices screamed from within the walls. Doors slammed throughout the house. The dining room family began pounding on their table. The classroom windows shattered. The child's toys ran through the corridors. The house was not dying, it was opening. Every room released what had been trapped inside it. Michael grabbed Nathan and pulled him towards the staircase. The creature stood between them and the exit. Its letterbox mouth opened. Nathan forced his own envelope into it. The creature stopped. The house became silent. Nathan said, "Return to sender." The black shape folded inward. Its coat collapsed into thousands of empty envelopes. The upper room began to disintegrate. Nathan and Michael ran. The corridors twisted as they descended. Doors opened on both sides. Men, women, and children emerged from rooms that had held them for decades. Some had not aged. Others appeared as shadows. Some vanished the moment they crossed the hallway. Nathan reached the entrance. Morning light shone through the open front door. He crossed the threshold and fell onto Ashburn Street. The house collapsed behind him without making a sound. One moment it stood between numbers 17 and 19. The next, there was only a strip of wet grass. Nathan turned. Michael had not followed him. His father stood on the other side of a doorway that no longer existed. For one brief second, Nathan saw him smiling. Then he was gone. Margaret Vale emerged from number 17. Across the narrow gap, the Harpers opened their curtains. Neither family appeared to notice anything unusual. Nathan searched the grass. He found his father's postal bag. Inside was a single envelope. There was no name, only an address. 42½ Bell Street. Nathan resigned from the postal service that afternoon. He moved to another town. He destroyed every photograph of number 17½ and never returned to Ashburn Street. For several months, nothing happened. Then people began disappearing again. Not from Ashburn Street. From towns Nathan had never visited. Witnesses described a narrow black house appearing between two ordinary buildings. The number was never the same. Sometimes it was 8½ sometimes 42½ sometimes it displayed no number at all. But each time, a postal worker reported receiving letters for an address that did not exist. 6 months after Nathan escaped, he was walking home when he saw a woman waiting outside his apartment building. She held a red umbrella, Emily Rhodes, the woman whose letter he had destroyed. She smiled and handed him an envelope. "I believe this belongs to you." Nathan looked at the address. The current resident, 17½ Ashburn Street. The return address was his apartment. He turned the envelope over. The wax seal had already been broken. Inside was a photograph. It showed Nathan standing before a narrow black house. Beside him was his father. Behind them were hundreds of people who had once been trapped inside. At the upper window stood the faceless creature. Nathan examined the date beneath the photograph. It was not tomorrow. It was the day his father disappeared. 1996. Nathan looked up. Emily was gone. Across the street, two apartment buildings stood side by side. Nathan had seen them every day since moving there, but now there was a narrow space between them. A black house occupied the gap. 3 floors compressed into a space no wider than a single room. The front door opened. Michael Cole stood inside. He had not aged. He lifted one hand and called his son's name. Nathan remained on the pavement. Then he noticed the postal bag hanging from his father's shoulder. A new envelope was visible inside it. Michael removed the letter and held it towards the light. Nathan could read the name through the thin paper. Emily Rhodes. Behind Michael, something moved through the hallway. A tall figure wearing a coat made from undelivered letters. Its letterbox mouth slowly opened. Nathan looked down at the envelope in his own hand. New words appeared beneath the address. Final delivery. The house had never needed Nathan to choose its next victim. It only needed him to believe that he had escaped. The streetlights went out. Every door on the black house opened at once, and from inside, hundreds of voices whispered the same words. Mail for Nathan Cole. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video and subscribe to The Final Statement for more dark mysteries and unsettling stories. Tell me in the comments, would you have delivered the final letter? Thank you for watching, and remember, some addresses are better left unfound.